Have you ever wondered how major accidents happen? Most people think disasters strike out of nowhere, a single catastrophic moment that changes everything. But the truth is far more unsettling. Safety doesn't vanish overnight. It erodes slowly, one small compromise at a time, until something goes terribly wrong. Today, we're exploring a phenomenon that affects workplaces, homes, and even entire industries. This is the story of how safety slowly gets ignored and why understanding this pattern might just save your life. Let me tell you about a manufacturing facility we'll call Riverside Manufacturing. For years, they had an impeccable safety record. Workers wore their protective equipment religiously. Inspections happened on schedule. Warning signs were respected. Then came the pressure to increase production. Management set ambitious targets, and suddenly there wasn't quite enough time for everything. The first compromise seemed insignificant. Skipping the daily equipment check on one machine because it had always worked perfectly. Just this once, they told themselves. Nothing bad happened. The machine ran fine. Production targets were met. And that's where the danger began. This is what safety experts called normalization of deviance, a term coined after studying major disasters. It's the process where actions that deviate from correct practice become normalized over time. What starts as a one-time exception becomes the new standard operating procedure. Within weeks at Riverside Manufacturing, the pattern expanded. If skipping one check was acceptable, why not skip others? Workers started taking shortcuts. Safety meetings became shorter and less frequent. Someone pointed out that the required safety goggles were uncomfortable during long shifts. Management looked the other way. Each individual violation seemed minor. Each day without incident reinforced the belief that these shortcuts were acceptable. The workers weren't being reckless. They were adapting to workplace pressures while nothing bad was happening to contradict their choices. This gradual acceptance is incredibly dangerous because it happens beneath our conscious awareness. Psychologists call this risk homeostasis. We unconsciously adjust our behavior to maintain what we perceive as an acceptable level of risk. When nothing bad happens after taking a shortcut, our brain recalibrates, deciding that the shortcut must be safe. Here's what makes this pattern so insidious. There are always warning signs, but they're easy to dismiss. Riverside. Small incidents started occurring. A worker nearly tripped over unmarked cables. Another experienced a minor equipment malfunction. These near misses should have been wake-up calls, but instead they were brushed off. No one got hurt became the standard response. We dodged a bullet, they'd say, without realizing they were loading more bullets into the chamber. Research shows that for every major accident, there are typically dozens of minor incidents and hundreds of near misses that preceded it. These form what safety professionals call the safety pyramid. The base is built on unsafe conditions and behaviors. The middle layer contains near misses and minor incidents, and at the very top sits the catastrophic event that finally forces everyone to pay attention. The tragedy is that every level of this pyramid represents an opportunity to intervene and prevent the disaster at the top. But human psychology works against us. We're wired to respond to immediate threats, not gradual deterioration. Something else was happening at Riverside that made the situation worse. Social dynamics. When a new worker arrived and insisted on following all safety protocols, they were seen as slowing everyone down. Subtle pressure mounted for them to lighten up and work like everyone else. This social conformity is powerful. Studies have repeatedly shown that people will ignore their own better judgment to fit in with group behavior. In workplace settings, this can be deadly. Speaking up about safety concerns requires courage, especially when it means challenging established practices or questioning authority. The safest organizations understand this and actively cultivates a culture where anyone can stop work if they see something unsafe without fear of retaliation or ridicule. They celebrate people who speak up, recognizing that today's uncomfortable conversation might prevent tomorrow's tragedy. Behind many safety compromises lies economic pressure. At Riverside, management faced quarterly targets that seemed impossible to meet while maintaining every safety protocol. They convinced themselves they were making a reasonable trade-off. A small reduction in safety procedures for a significant boost in productivity, this cost-benefit analysis is fundamentally flawed. Safety isn't an expense that can be minimized. It's an investment that prevents catastrophic losses. The true cost of an accident includes not just medical bills and legal fees, but also lost productivity, damaged reputation, employee morale, and the immeasurable human suffering involved. Forward-thinking companies recognize that safety and productivity aren't opposing forces. In fact, safe workplaces are typically more productive because they have fewer disruptions, higher employee morale, and better operational efficiency. So how do we break this dangerous pattern? Awareness is the first step. Understanding that safety erosion happens gradually helps us recognize it in our own environments, whether at work, at home, or anywhere else. Here are practical strategies that worked. First, implement regular safety audits conducted by fresh eyes. People within a system often can't see the gradual changes that outsiders immediately notice. Second, create a reporting culture for near misses. Treat every close call as valuable data, not something to sweep under the rug. Investigate these incidents thoroughly to understand what conditions allowed them to occur. Third, empower everyone to speak up. The person doing the work often understands the risks better than anyone in management. Their concerns deserve serious consideration. Fourth, resist the temptation to skip safety procedures during busy periods. That's precisely when they matter most. Fatigue and time pressure increase the likelihood of mistakes, making safety protocols even more critical. Finally, tell stories. Share case studies of accidents that resulted from ignored warnings. Keep the lessons alive in organizational memory so that each generation doesn't have to relearn them through tragedy. The erosion of safety is a human problem with human solutions. It happens not because people are careless, but because we're predictable in how we respond to pressure, social dynamics, and the absence of immediate consequences. Understanding this pattern gives us power over it. Every time you notice a safety shortcut becoming normalized, you have an opportunity to intervene. Every time you speak up about a concern, you might prevent a future disaster. Safety isn't about rules for the sake of rules. It is about recognizing that behind every protocol is a lesson often learned the hard way by someone who came before us. The next time you are tempted to skip a safety step because nothing bad has happened yet, remember, that's exactly how safety slowly gets ignored. And the cost of that ignorance is higher than anyone wants to pay. Stay safe out there, and remember, your life is worth the extra 5 minutes.